All right, so let's continue the conversation. If you are part of a company faced with a ransomware attack, what options do you really have? And should the government be doing more to help companies deal with these attacks? Let's bring in David Kennedy, former NSA and Marine Corps hacker and founder and CEO of TrustedSec, a cybersecurity firm that helps companies respond in real time to ransomware threats. Do any of the findings that Christina just presented surprise you? I mean, 85% of boards have had a discussion about it. 39% or some number like that said that they made the right decision. They basically had no choice but to do what they did.
Yeah, these are some of the most difficult decisions that these executives will ever make in their life. I mean, just remember, these are the victims, right? And their entire organizations typically are crippled. They have no ability to recover. And this is literally the last resort that they have. I've been in board meetings, and we respond to these. I've dealt with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these. I've been in board meetings before where the CEOs are literally in tears crying because their 100-year-old family-owned businesses are completely shut down. It's unfortunate that we're in this type of situation. So, I really do feel for these organizations that make the payments because it's the only option they have available to them. Granted, when you make those payments, it's giving the ransomware groups even more capabilities to go after larger targets. So it's such a hard, discussion to have. But at the end of the day, most of the time, that's the only option they have to recover their business and to stay operational.
So a couple of questions here. When a company makes a payment, whether it is a large company or a small company, what percentage of those paying companies have coverage that reimburses them in whole or in part for the payments they make?
Yes, cyber liability insurance is what we call it. And cyber liability insurance is kind of this really gray area. There's a lot of catches and gotchas in there, depending on how easy it was for the attackers to go in, if there was gross negligence, to even receive the payments in the first place. Some of them recover. I would say probably around 40 to 50% of our customers get reimbursement, usually not the full amount, but certain percentages to help them recover from those specific incidents.
So the insurance helps, but like all insurance, there's a lot of fine print in there, and you may not get 100% on the dollar of what you pay. Should the government, a lot of government people say, we prefer you not to pay the ransomware. Is that a practical choice for these companies, the government to ban the paying of ransomware?
Well, there's no question that organizations need to do more to protect themselves, right? And that's the issue that you run into, is that a lot of these companies are really unprepared to handle the types of threats that are out there. So they need to enhance their capabilities. But at the same time, the U.S. government doesn't consider these types of groups on behalf of the government that they're essentially, running under. Most specifically, if you look at Russia, a lot of the high-end, large organized crime groups operate out of Russia. Until we hold those countries accountable, we're not going to really see a shift and change from these specific ransomware groups that are out there. So, it's not, you can definitely say, listen, don't allow any payments whatsoever. And you would literally have 100 companies overnight that would not be able to recover and completely shut down, causing major issues. So, it's not fair, at least right now, to say that. Companies definitely need to do more. But it's this delicate balance of pushing on these governments to give these people up that are conducting these operations and, getting organizations to shore up their defenses to withstand these types of attacks.
Better defense, better offense is what I'm hearing you say.
Absolutely right. Better defense, better offense. If we can shut down these organizations, go more on the offensive, we have a much better chance of handling these in the future. So,
David, if we were to, quote unquote, ban cryptocurrency tomorrow, would that stop ransomware attacks?
It would. And I say that lightly because what would happen is you'd have an influx of ransomware groups trying to get as many attacks off before that type of policy happened. It'd have to be a staging period where, like something like OFAC, Department of Treasury came in and said, listen, after this certain date, we're not going to allow companies to do ransomware transfers anymore or Bitcoin transfers anymore. And during that period of time, you'd see a heightened attack surface around a lot of companies being compromised. And then you'd see a major dip off because they're essentially cutting off the currency of these organizations. But again, it'd be a really bad short period of time. Because these companies would have no ability to recover, and they'd literally be non-operational and probably go out of business.
Would they ever recover? I mean, yeah, if you put that barrier up.
A lot of these companies have no ability to recover. I mean, I'm talking manufacturing plants shut down, the ability to deliver products shut down, and unless they pay the ransom, their entire company, there's no rebuilding from scratch. So systems, the operations, everything that they've built, their intellectual property, everything's gone. And so they would literally be shut down, unfortunately.
I'm surprised because I thought you would say that even if we banned crypto, there would still be ransomware attacks. Why can't they use cash, secret bank accounts, offshore, whatever you name it, to still pursue those goals? I also thought you might have said, I know you're not a crypto expert, but that it would basically be impossible to actually ban crypto. Just your thoughts on those 2 points.
Yeah, it's definitely an impossibility to ban crypto. I mean, organizations can definitely still make payments with the potential of violating the law with other ramifications that occur. In most organizations, they typically don't want to violate the law. So a lot of times I think you'd see a pretty substantial reduction in the payments occurring. Here's the thing, it's so easy for money to be sent to these organizations, through cryptocurrency. And if you were to ban it, yes, there are other methods, wire transfers and things to that effect. But you designate these groups the same type of organization as terrorist organizations, for example. You limit it from a law perspective, which would then cut all funding to these groups, and they'd probably move to different countries to try to go after these different organizations. So it's very monetary driven. It's very much focused on getting money. You cut that off, you'd see a substantial reduction. I'm not saying complete, but you definitely see a major reduction in these attacks across here. But again, it would have a very high cost here in the United States for these organizations that would no longer be able to recover.
We're running a little over time, but I want to ask a question. Are these ransomware numbers negotiable in any sense? In other words, if somebody says,
you can definitely negotiate with these groups. You can be like, hey, if they're asking for 5 million, you can be like, hey, I can only pay 1.5 million. They're like, well, maybe you can do 2.5 million. We're not going to settle for anything less than that. So you can definitely negotiate with these groups on the amount of money that you pay to them.
What do you tell somebody to do in these cases? What if it was you? What if it was your company? What would you do? Pay it?
That's so tough to say. Our general stance is please don't pay the ransom because you're helping these adversaries, get better with more capabilities and going after other companies and targeting individuals. But again, I've sat in these rooms with these people that their entire lives are completely ruined. Their employees' lives are completely ruined. You literally have no other option to pay the ransom. And
David
that would be our
Kenney,
advice.
Always fascinating to have you with us. We appreciate it. I know we'll be talking more, sadly.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
You bet.